The world snapped sideways with a sound that wasn't a sound, like someone had torn a sheet of glass in half, and for one wrong, weightless heartbeat, Goku felt nothing under his feet, nothing around his fingers, nothing but the wild, spiraling sense that his ki had slipped off its mark. Instant transmission usually felt like a clean jump, a neat click between lock and release. But this time, it was all static and grit. The signature he'd focused on, Vegeta's steady, annoyed flare somewhere over Capsule Corp, smearing into something distant and alien. Then the light went white, then black. Then there was only the taste of metal in his mouth and the sense of falling through a narrow, screaming tunnel. He hit something hard enough to leave his teeth ringing. Asphalt exploded under him. A crater blossomed in the middle of the street, chunks of blackened pavement and shattered concrete flung into the air like pebbles. Cars swerving and horn blaring as they skidded to a stop. For a moment, he stayed there, kneeling in a spiderweb of cracks, smoke curling around him, the air thick with dust and the sharp smell of burning rubber. Sirens began to howl somewhere far off, and then closer. People screamed. A billboard overhead, twice as tall as Capsule Corp's tallest building, shook and shed glass in glittering sheets. Goku coughed, waved away the dust with one hand, and blinked up at the sky that wasn't supposed to be there. It was the wrong color. Too clean, too sharply blue, the clouds high and thin and long like pale scars. Around him, the city rose in steel and glass and concrete, straight up, no rounded edges like West City's domes, more like a forest of blades catching sunlight. Letters he didn't recognize at first flickered on giant screens, images moving faster than his eye could bother to track. A news anchor's mouth silently forming words, an advertisement for something that looked like a car, but sleeker, harsher lines.
A logo shaped like a shield with a stylized S that tickled at the edge of his attention. People stood at the rim of the crater in their neat suits and skirts, some holding small glowing rectangles up like cameras, some just staring. He felt their fear first, a mass of jittery, thin threads all around him. And behind it, deeper, a set of presences that weren't ki, but hummed in a way that made his skin prickle. That was wrong. Power usually felt like warmth, like wind, like a flame. These felt like pressure, weight, a distant sun bearing down. He stood up, brushing dust from his gi, patting his belt as if, maybe, somehow, one of Bulma's gadgets had malfunctioned and done this. No capsule, no communicator, just the familiar orange fabric smeared with grey. His boots crunched glass. He said, more to himself than anyone else, but the sound carried in the sudden hush. This isn't Capsule City. A shard of glass dropped near him and bounced. A woman at the rim of the crater flinched backward, clutching her bag. Goku turned slowly, scanning for familiar key signatures out of habit. Nothing. No Vegeta, no Gohan, no Piccolo's careful, watchful pulse. No Beerus, thank the gods. Just that strange pressure, like 3 suns and a storm, closing fast. His skin tightened, his pupils narrowed. Whatever it was coming from above. The world tilted again. A shadow fell across him, big enough to turn the crater into a bowl of shade. He looked up. The man hovered in the sky without ki, without even the faint ripple he associated with flight. No aura, just a calm, almost effortless suspension in the air, cape hanging in a red sheet that fluttered very slightly in the city wind. Blue suit, red boots, that same S symbol in bright yellow and red on his chest. Black hair slicked back, a calm jawline that looked like it had been carved for newspapers. His eyes, blue, Goku realized, an odd, clean blue, narrowed fractionally as they took in the crater, the smoke, the orange ghee, the mess of black hair, and the tail shadow that wasn't there anymore. He was strong. That much was obvious even without ki. Goku could feel it in the way the air seemed to get heavier, the way the man's very presence settled into the environment like an extra gravity. Strong in a different way, like a mountain that had learned to smile. "Everyone get back," the man called, voice carrying effortlessly to the far ends of the street, kind but edged with command. "Emergency services are on their way. Please move away from the crater." The crowd obeyed. Goku watched them go, puzzled and a little impressed. He'd seen kings who couldn't make a crowd move that fast. As the people backed away, two more figures appeared. One descending in a controlled arc, the other simply there in a blink, landing on the crumbled edge with the soft, final sound of someone who'd practiced making an entrance for a long time. The woman carried herself like a blade in a red and gold scabbard. She wore armor that gleamed even through the dust, blue and red and gold, a tiara resting on dark hair, a lasso coiled at her hip that Goku's instincts tagged as dangerous before his brain found the word. Her eyes were steady, knowing, like she'd seen men explode into pink mist and never looked away. The other figure was wrapped in darkness despite the sunlight, a black cowl with pointed ears, a cape like a torn shadow, armor that broke up the human shape into sharp planes. His eyes were white slits behind the mask, unreadable. Goku felt no ki from any of them, and that made his stomach twist in a way fighting Frieza hadn't. "Hello," the floating man said, lowering himself until his boots hovered a handspan above the ground, then touching down. The cape spilled onto the asphalt. Up close, he radiated warmth, literally, the heat from his skin faint but real, like standing near a campfire. "My name is Superman." The name meant nothing and everything at once. Goku tilted his head, hair shifting.
"I'm Goku," he said. Son Goku. I think I got lost." Batman. Goku didn't know the name yet, but the presence fit something with claws and doubt, made a small, barely audible sound. Maybe a snort, maybe just his armor settling. "He fell from a spatial rupture over the city," the man in black said, voice low, every word weighed, roughened by something like gravel and late nights. "No prior data on his energy signature, but whatever it is, it's off the charts. The crater alone suggests significant physical durability. The suit's alien. The fabric's not in any database." His gaze flicked up and down Goku, cold, cataloguing. "We need to move this off the street." The woman stepped forward a pace, boots crunching glass. "I am Diana of Themyscira," she said, as if that explanation should be enough. Her accent clipped the words just slightly, as though they came from another age.
You came through a tear in the world. That should not be possible without great power or great recklessness." Goku scratched the back of his head, laughed softly, the sound a little shaky. "It was an accident," he said. "My technique's called instant transmission. I lock onto someone's key and jump, but this time something pulled me. Maybe I ate too fast." He laughed again, partly out of habit, partly because the alternative was facing the sick worry gathering in his gut. If he had ripped something he shouldn't have, somewhere else, somewhere important, then this wasn't just getting lost. This was breaking reality like a plate. Superman's eyes flickered for a moment, and Goku felt the weight of his scrutiny like a scan, more than vision, almost like his own key sense in reverse. "He's telling the truth," Superman said softly, mostly to the others. "At least, he believes he is." Then he turned his full attention on Goku again. "You're not from here, that much is obvious. From your description, you have a teleportation ability that, intentionally or not, created a rift in the fabric of space."
"That's significant." The word hung there, polite but heavy. Goku nodded, trying not to show how little of it he actually understood. He knew what space was. He knew what rifts were. He had been punched hard enough to slip between universes once or twice. The details never bothered him much. If a thing broke, he hit it differently until it stopped breaking. Still, the way the three of them looked at him, as if he were both bomb and child, made something in him want to prove immediately that he wasn't here to ruin anyone's day. "I can fix it," he said, maybe too quickly. "Probably. I've dealt with stuff like this before. There was this god of destruction with purple ears." His stomach growled. Loud. The sound rolled up out of him like a small thunderclap echoing off glass and concrete in the sudden quiet. He froze. Superman blinked. Batman's mouth did not move, but Goku felt the collective shift in the air, as if the tension had been a rubber band and someone had poked it. Diana's lips twitched. For a moment, in the middle of the dust and sirens and frightened civilians, they were just 4 people, one of whom was embarrassingly hungry. Goku pressed a hand to his belly. "Sorry," he said, face flushing a little beneath the dirt. "I, kind of burnt a lot of energy getting here. Do you have any place to eat while we talk about how not to tear your world apart?" Superman exhaled through his nose, a quiet, almost amused sound. The line of his shoulders eased by a fraction. "Metropolis does have restaurants," he said, glancing sideways at Batman. "But maybe we start somewhere a little more secure than a street full of civilians." Batman shook his head, the cowl shifting slightly. "We take him to the Watchtower. Controlled environment. Containment fields if needed. And a better vantage point to scan for residual anomalies from the tear." He stepped closer, cloak brushing the fractured asphalt, looking up at Goku with that pale, narrowed gaze. "Until we know exactly what you are and what you did, you're a potential global threat." Goku frowned, more hurt than offended. "I'm not a threat," he said. "I'm a Saiyan. I protect people, most of the time." He thought of the times he'd let fights go on too long because they were interesting, because he wanted to see what someone could really do, and didn't say it aloud. Superman must have seen something in his face, because the man in blue reached out and rested a hand lightly on Goku's shoulder, the weight firm, reassuring, and very, very strong. "Then help us understand," he said. "Come with us. We'll figure this out together."
Goku looked at the hand, then at the city he'd cracked. The hole in the sky above was gone, folded in on itself. But he could still feel a weird draft in the fabric of space, an itch at the edge of his key sense. Somewhere, a mistake was looking back at him. He nodded. "Okay," he said quietly. "Lead the way." Superman's hand tightened for a heartbeat in gratitude, then released. He looked up, eyes flaring just slightly. Goku felt, rather than saw, something answer that look from very high above. A presence, like an eye opening in orbit. The next second, the world blinked. They weren't on the street anymore. One instant, there was the tang of exhaust and the buzz of neon signs and the murmur of frightened humans. The next, there was silence and the low hum of machines. The floor under Goku's boots was smooth and white, a metal composite that didn't flex under his weight. Curved walls arced outward into vast windows that looked down on a blue planet marbled with cloud. He'd seen Earth from space before, out of smashed spaceship windows and through God of Destruction portals. But this Earth was subtly wrong. The geography a little off, the arrangement of continents different. It made his head hurt if he looked too long. "Whoa," he said, stepping closer to the glass, breath fogging it for a second.
"You can see everything from up here. We call it the Watchtower," Superman said, joining him at the window, cape stirring in an artificial breeze. "Our headquarters. A place to keep an eye on things." The way he said it made Goku think of Kami's lookout, only colder, more technological, less inhabited by old gods and more by circuits and screens. Behind them, footsteps approached, a lighter, faster rhythm. Goku turned. A man in red stopped a meter away, a little out of breath for no reason Goku could see, hands on his hips, lightning bolts on his chest and ears. His eyes were bright, curious, his whole body vibrating with suppressed motion. "So this is him?" the newcomer asked. "Alien crasher guy, big orange jumpsuit, hair like a pineapple?" "I was picking up pizza in Central City, and suddenly we've got a citywide alert, spatial rift, possible invasion. You know, the usual Saturday." "Flash," Batman said warningly, from somewhere near the main console. The Dark Knight was already at work, fingers moving over holographic interfaces, bringing up data. Screens bloomed in the air, graphs and waveforms, and complex models of the tear that Goku didn't even try to pass. "This is Son Goku. Until we know otherwise, he's our guest, not an enemy." Flash held up his hands in surrender. Got it. Guest. Welcome to the Watchtower, Mr. Goku. You ever gotten space sick? Because I know a guy who knows a guy who puked in 0G once, and let me tell you, it's... He mimed something that probably wasn't technically possible, then grinned when Goku laughed despite himself. "I've been in space," Goku said. "Didn't puke. Came close once. Long story." "Every story's a long story with you," Batman muttered, without looking up. "Focus, people. We have an interdimensional breach and a variable we can't quantify. Superman, Diana, take him to the training hall. Let's get some metrics, power output, durability, mental stability." He glanced over his shoulder, white lenses narrowing. "Don't hold back." Goku perked up almost involuntarily. "Training hall?" he repeated, the words hitting a familiar pleasure center in his brain. "You mean we're going to spar?" Superman and Diana exchanged a look. It was subtle, but Goku caught it. The shared understanding between warriors who had stood side by side in too many battles. "We need to know how dangerous you are," Diana said calmly. "The best way to learn that is in controlled combat. If what you said is true, that you fight to protect, then you understand why we must be sure. Goku's grin came without effort this time, cutting through his unease like sunlight. "That's fine by me," he said. "It's easier to talk while we're fighting anyway." Flash made a choking sound that was halfway between a laugh and horror. "Who says that?" he asked no one in particular. "Who just casually suggests a chat in the middle of throwing punches that can level cities?" "People like him," Batman said. The grimness in his tone wasn't entirely unfriendly anymore, more like resignation edged with a reluctant curiosity. "Run a full sensor sweep during the match. We need everything." The training chamber was a long, high cathedral of metal and force fields, marked with faint scars from past tests. The air smelled faintly of ozone. Automated systems hummed in the walls, ready to deploy barriers and dampeners at a word. Goku stepped into the center, flexing his fingers, feeling the space with the unconscious measuring instinct of a man who had spent more time in arenas than classrooms. Plenty of room to move, high ceiling, reinforced, but he'd learned the hard way that indestructible was a word mostly used by people who'd never actually tried to break things. Superman floated to the opposite end of the arena and touched down, his boots barely scraping the floor. "We'll start simple," he said. "Hand to hand, no heat vision, no breath, no whatever energy attacks you're capable of. Just technique. Agreed?" "Ah," Goku said, but there was a spark in his eyes. "Sure. We can save the fun stuff for later." He glanced at the observation window high above, where silhouettes moved. Batman's dark cutout, Flash's restless zigzag, another shape Goku hadn't seen before, lit from within, half man and half machine. Cyborg, he'd learn later. For now, they were just witnesses. "Ready?" Superman asked. Goku rolled his shoulders. The weight of his gi shifted, familiar. He let his ki rise just a little, not enough to transform, just enough to ripple under his skin and sharpen his focus. "Yeah," he said softly. "I'm ready." The first punch came faster than any human on this world could have seen. 1 second Superman was standing still, the next he was in front of Goku, arm flashing forward in a clean cross toward Goku's jaw, the air cracking around his fist. Goku's body moved before his mind caught up. He slipped to the side, the punch brushing his cheek like a hot wind, and countered with a short, efficient strike to the Kryptonian's ribs. His knuckles met a chest that felt like stone that had learned to bend. But there was give, and behind it, a twinge of surprise. Superman slid back a meter, boots leaving shallow grooves in the floor. He smiled, small and genuine. "Interesting," he said. "You're holding back." "So are you," Goku replied, heart beating a little faster now in the good way. "Again?" They blurred. To an ordinary watcher, it would have been a smear of colour and impact, but in Goku's perception, each moment stretched just enough. The angle of Superman's shoulders telegraphing a feint, the subtle shift in footing that preceded a launch, the flicker of intent in the eyes. He met blows that would have shattered mountains, redirecting them, slipping around them, using Superman's momentum to unbalance him. In turn, Superman absorbed strikes that would have annihilated most foes, his body drinking in the kinetic energy, his face focused, but never cruel. There was no killing intent here, just testing, measuring. A scientist with fists of steel. Up in the observation room, Batman's voice came low and even over the comms. Energy signatures spiking. This is still baseline for both of them. Soups hasn't even gone full tilt yet, Flash said, almost reverent. And Blondie down there. His name is Goku, Diana interjected. And no, he is not at full power. As if to underscore her words, Goku let his ki swell, the familiar warmth pouring from his core outwards, surrounding him. His hair shimmered, then, with a sharp, ringing sound like a bell struck in another dimension, flared gold. The air crashed outward in a halo, pushing Superman back. Lightning crawled along the floor, caught in the wake of his transformation. His eyes burned cyan, the pupils narrowing. Super Saiyan. On this Watchtower, in this alien universe, the form felt both the same and subtly off, as if the local laws of reality were watching, curious. Superman steadied himself, squinting through the glare. "Is this you holding back?" he asked over the roar of energy. Goku grinned, hair blazing. "You wanted metrics," he said. "This is the start." Then he was gone, replaced by motion. He hit Superman square in the chest with a punch that would have ended most battles back home. The Kryptonian flew backward, crashed into the far wall, embedded in it for a heartbeat before pushing himself free. Dust drifted down. He wiped a smear of something, not blood, not yet, from his lip, surprised and alive. "Okay," he said, voice edged with a laughter that hadn't quite found its way out. "Okay." He stepped forward, and when he moved this time, the air near the windows trembled. He met Goku in the center again, and now their impacts rang through the whole station, through Batman's teeth and Flash's bones, through the reinforced struts. Cyborg checked readouts that were spiking in unnerving ways. "Structural integrity at 92%, he murmured. Guys, just as a friendly reminder, This place is in orbit. Let's not punch a hole in our own house." "Dial them down if you can," Batman said. "If you can't, give me the worst-case failure scenario." "We all die in vacuum," Cyborg said dryly. "But hey, at least we'll have good footage of how it happened." In the arena, Goku shifted levels, letting the golden aura condense, sharpen. Super Saiyan 2 came like a second sun igniting, lightning biting deeper into the air, hair lifting, the pressure doubling. Superman staggered for a second under the increased force, then adapted, as all good fighters did. He started to use more than his fists, micro-adjustments of speed, the beginnings of heat behind his gaze, a thin line of red that Goku sensed even when it wasn't fully unleashed. The Saiyan dodged, laughed, felt the old joy rise up. For a moment he forgot the broken sky, the wrong earth, the guilt whispering about rifts and accidents. There was just the dance. Then, mid-swing, something tugged at him. A thread in the background of his senses, faint but insistently wrong, like a note off-key in a familiar song. He faltered, just a fraction. Superman's fist brushed his jaw, turning his head. The impact snapped him back. He blinked, stepped back, aura fluttering. "You feel that?" he asked, voice low, serious now. Superman straightened, chest rising and falling with measured breaths he didn't technically need. "Feel what?" Goku turned, looking past the walls, past the white arcs of metal, out towards the void and something beyond it.
That itch at the edge of his key sense was sharper now, like a storm rolling in somewhere far but on a direct path. Cold threaded down his spine. "Something's coming," he said, the words falling heavy. "Something big. It feels like—" He frowned, searching for the comparison. He'd met gods, monsters, machines. This was none of those and all of them. A gravity well in the shape of a will. Like a planet, trying to be a person. Up in the control room, alarms began to flicker.
Cyborg's eyes widened as new data spilled across the holograms. Batman? We've got an incoming energy spike near Earth's orbit. Not natural. Something just opened up near the exosphere. Signature doesn't match anything in our files." Batman's jaw clenched. Memory flashed behind his eyes of parademons blotting out the sky, of a world invaded by an iron will from beyond. He didn't say the name, but Diana did, her voice taut. "Darkseid." The word carried a weight Goku didn't know yet, but he felt the way the room reacted, the way everyone's key that wasn't key tightened like a fist. Even Superman's expression shifted, light dimming in his gaze, replaced by a harder steel. Goku stood in the center of the arena, golden aura still flickering, breath steady, heart thudding as the sense locked in. He looked at the planet turning slowly beneath them, then at the empty black where something was forcing its way through. The guilt returned with a vengeance, acid in his veins. He remembered that first wrong pull during instant transmission, the way space had torn too easily. He had punched a hole in the wall between universes, and something had seen the light. "So that's my fault, huh?" he murmured, mostly to himself. His stomach chose that moment to growl again, absurdly, a hollow complaint in the middle of dawning disaster. He almost laughed at the cruelty of it. "Guess I owe you guys more than dinner now." Superman stepped closer, resting a hand briefly on his shoulder again, this time with a different kind of gravity. "We don't know that it's your fault," he said, but the lie was gentle, and they both heard the unspoken, "probably." "What we do know is that it's coming, and that we're going to fight it." Goku nodded, eyes fixed on the dark. "Good," he said quietly, "because if it's coming for me, I'd rather meet it head on." "You might get your wish sooner than you think," Batman said, voice coming through the comms, flatter than ever. "Boom tube opening above Metropolis." Parademons deploying. This isn't a reconnaissance mission. This is an invasion. The lights in the Watchtower shifted, bathing everything in a dim red. Klaxons began to pulse. Flash straightened, all humour gone. Diana's hand closed around the hilt of a sword that hadn't been there a second before. Cyborg's systems lit up, weapons calibrating, motherbox humming. Goku's aura flared brighter, golden light licking up the walls, casting long shadows. The strain of the sparring match, the disorientation of a new universe, the gnawing hunger, all of it funneled into a single, sharp point of focus. He wasn't home. These weren't his cities, his people. But fear smelled the same everywhere. Screams echoed the same way between buildings no matter what language carried them. "Then let's go," he said, "before more people get hurt." Superman's eyes flashed. "Justice League, move out," he said, and the words rolled through the Watchtower like a drumbeat. Goku didn't know their histories, their wounds, their long list of losses at the hands of the creature whose name had fallen like a stone a moment ago. But he knew this cadence, this gathering of wills just before collision. He stepped into it without hesitation, the outsider drawn into the center of a storm he'd helped create.
somewhere far below, in the city where he had cracked the street with his arrival. The air over Metropolis warped and split, boom tube yawning open like a wound. And through it, in slow, terrible majesty, an old, cruel gaze began to turn toward the new light in the multiverse, like a predator scenting fresh blood. The boom tube widened above Metropolis like a second sun made of ash and ruin, its edges pulsing with the sickly light of a universe that had forgotten how to hope. Parademons spilled out in shrieking formation, wings beating the air into dirty whirlwinds that scattered dust and glass over the rooftops. Goku felt the shift even through the Watchtower walls. The pressure of countless bodies,
the iron taste of fear rising from the city like steam. The cold certainty of a will behind it all. Ancient and patient and utterly merciless. Superman was gone in a streak of blue and red before the echoes of the alarm faded. Flash blurred after him, a filament of lightning crawling across the Watchtower floor before vanishing. Diana leapt, sword catching the red lights, and the air cracked around her. Goku followed, not through panels or doors, but simply vanishing. The familiar tightening of space in his chest as he bent his ki around him. Instant transmission, humming like a half-healed wound. The world reassembled around him in a blast of wind and grit atop a Metropolis skyscraper half-shadowed by the massive disk of the boom tube. Parademons dived toward the streets, grabbing civilians, smashing windows, hurling vehicles aside as if they were paper. Sirens wailed below. Superman intercepted a wave of them mid-air, fists like meteor strikes, heat vision carving precise, surgical lines. Diana carved through a formation on the adjacent rooftop, her lasso whirling bright arcs that snapped monsters from the sky and slammed them into concrete. Flash raced along the ground, plucking civilians from danger faster than their fear could reach their throats. But the swarm was growing. Each second the tube vomited more bodies into the world. Goku's breath fogged once as he took it all in. He'd seen invasions, planets cracked open by tyrants and gods, the quiet stillness after annihilation. And all of it lived in the way he clenched his fists now. "Let's do this," he whispered, then dove. He hit the first wave of parademons like a meteor through dry leaves, striking, redirecting, sending bodies tumbling in spinning arcs over the street. The creatures attacked in packs, claws scraping his arms in sparks, wings beating hard enough to stagger weaker fighters. But they were slow compared to him, predictable, their movements drilled in rigid patterns. He weaved through them in a fluid cascade of punches, elbows, heels, a dance that burned away thought and left only precision. One dived for a screaming teenager pinned beneath a crushed taxi. Goku blinked behind it, grabbed its spine and flung it into three others barreling down from above. The taxi groaned, sliding another inch, and the boy gasped as the metal bent toward him. Goku jammed one hand under the frame and lifted, not straining, just raising it enough for the boy to scramble free, wild-eyed. "Run that way," Goku said, pointing at a clearer street Flash had just evacuated. "And don't look back." The teenager nodded shakily, then bolted. Before Goku could recenter his focus, a shadow swallowed the sunlight. He looked up. Darkseid stepped out of the boom tube like a titan stepping through a doorway too small for him, but forced to accept it because the universe had no larger frame to hold him. Each footfall hit the air itself, warping it. His armour was the colour of a storm over poisoned earth, skin ashen, eyes twin burning coals that surveyed the world not as a place, but as a ledger of things that owed him tribute. And his gaze went straight to Goku. It was like being seen by a mountain that had learned contempt. "So," Darkseid said, voice barely raised but carrying through the city as though spoken into the bones of every building. "The anomaly reveals itself." Goku felt the stare in his lungs. "If you're here because of that rift, then I'm the one you want. Leave this world alone." Darkseid descended, each step splitting microfractures through the air like invisible glass. "You tore a hole between realities," he said. "A beacon even the dimmest of my servants could have followed. I do not come for the world, Saiyan. I come for you." His voice lowered, grinding. "Consider it collection." Goku's jaw tightened. Behind him, a parademon lunged. He didn't even turn, just backhanded it into a rooftop antenna that snapped in sparks. Darkseid's lip twitched. "Your power radiates through the void, unrefined, undisciplined. You destroy the walls between universes with the reckless ease of a child smashing toys." Goku said nothing, because the worst part was, Darkseid wasn't wrong. But guilt had never been enough to stop a fight, and it wouldn't stop this one. Superman streaked in from above, slamming into Darkseid with enough force to make the air ripple like water. The impact knocked Darkseid half a step back, just half, and the ground buckled. Diana arrived the instant after, sword carving a bright arc aimed for Darkseid's throat. He caught the blade between thumb and forefinger, metal screaming as it halted. Goku didn't waste the opening. He transformed in a breath. Blue light erupted around him, liquid and alive, washing the rooftop in a glow that made glass tremble in its frames. Super Saiyan Blue. His bones felt lighter, his thoughts sharper, the world slowing just enough to give him the clarity he needed. Darkseid turned, eyes burning more brightly now. "Better," he said. "Come then. Show me whether your existence justifies the tear you have inflicted upon the multiverse." Goku launched himself forward and the city braced for impact. Superman flanked him at the same moment, Diana a heartbeat behind, each of them striking at angles a commander would dream of, but never teach. Darkseid absorbed the hits with the patience of a god used to disappointment, until Goku's fist, glowing with blue ki, caught him full in the jaw. The blow didn't send him flying. It didn't break him, but it made his head turn. That was enough to feel like hope. "You are interesting," Darkseid murmured. Then his eyes ignited. Omega beams knifed out in twisting, sentient paths, one streaking toward Goku, the other snapping toward a collapsing building where civilians huddled beneath bent steel beams. Goku sensed both paths, the deadly fork in the moment, the impossible choice. And his hesitation cost him. The Omega beam struck his side before he could fully dodge, burning through blue aura, ripping cloth, carving a searing line across his ribs. Pain flared white-hot, nearly buckling his knees. He grit his teeth, head swimming. People screamed below. And then Superman was there, intercepting the second beam with his chest, the impact driving him into the pavement with a force that shattered windows for blocks. "Don't!" Superman gasped through the smoke, struggling to rise. "Don't try to save everyone alone." The words hit Goku harder than the beam. He steadied, breath shaking, vision clearing. And somewhere inside him, the quiet click of a door opening, a deeper instinct rising. His body loosened. His mind widened. Ultra instinct, unpolished, raw but real, began to stir like silver fire under his skin. He exhaled and stepped forward again. The silver shimmer began at Goku's fingertips, a tremor rather than a glow, as though light itself were uncertain whether it was allowed to gather around him. His breath thinned into long, controlled threads, each inhale sliding cleanly into the next, each exhale shedding what little hesitation remained. He didn't transform with the explosive violence of his Super Saiyan forms. Instead, his power quieted, folded inward, stilled. The air around him tightened the way a bowstring tightens, silent, deadly, inevitable. Darkseid felt the shift. His head tilted only slightly, but that motion carried the weight of entire civilizations learning to fear him. "Instinct without discipline," he rumbled. "A child's trick. You hope to stand before me with borrowed balance?" Goku didn't answer. His body answered for him. Darkseid moved first, stepping forward with a strike meant to crater the building beneath them. His fist sliced the air in a perfect arc. Goku wasn't there. He didn't dodge so much as was never in the path, feet gliding across broken concrete with the soundless certainty of falling ash. His arm rose, deflecting a follow-up blow with 2 fingers. The shockwave tore a billboard from the next tower, but Goku didn't budge. Silver flickered again at the edges of his eyes. Superman, still forcing himself upright from the pavement below, looked up in silent amazement. Diana watched from a ruined balcony, her sword dripping parademon ichor, breath catching as she sensed the change. Not ki, not magic, but something purer, the distilled language of motion. For a heartbeat, even the parademons hesitated. "Interesting," Darkseid said again, not with admiration, but annoyance, as if the universe had given Goku permission to inconvenience him. He thrust his hand forward, palm glowing with Omega power. The beam carved through the rooftop in a spiraling path that could have hunted armies. It found only empty air as Goku drifted aside, posture loose, movements clean and inevitable, as though guided by a rhythm no one else could hear. He closed the distance in the width of a blink and struck Darkseid's sternum with an open palm. The impact was almost gentle. The result was not. Darkseid slid backward across the rooftop, boots carving twin trenches through concrete and steel until he collided with a ventilation tower that buckled inward. From the street, Flash skidded to a stop, arms full of civilians he'd evacuated. He stared upward, eyes wide. He palm-struck Darkseid. Who palm strikes Darkseid?
Someone who isn't thinking, Superman managed, wiping dust and blood from his chin. Someone who's letting go. Darkseid emerged from the collapsed metal ruin, brushing debris from his shoulder with slow, offended precision. You misunderstand your place, creature. Power without dominion is noise. I am order. I am the shape the multiverse takes when it stops pretending to be free. Goku's hair shifted as the wind whipped around them, silver rippling but refusing to settle fully. Not complete, not stable, but enough. He took one step forward, just one. The air cracked like dry wood. Darkseid appeared directly in front of him, moving with godlike force, but Goku's body had already twisted, his hand sweeping in a curve so smooth it looked almost lazy. The strike redirected Darkseid's punch downward, driving the tyrant's own force into the rooftop, punching a hole straight through 20 floors in a plume of dust and shrapnel. The tower groaned, listing. Goku felt it. Every weakness in the structure, every scream below. He moved before thinking, sliding under falling debris, catching crumpled beams on his forearms, flinging them aside with the exact force needed to redirect them without killing anyone. People trapped in the floors beneath stared up through dust-filled air as if seeing a myth written in ki and instinct. That single moment, saving strangers before pressing the attack, made Darkseid smile. A thin, razor smile. "There," he said,
rising out of the collapsing floor, as though gravity were an optional suggestion. That floor, your mercy, your instinct to shelter the weak, it chains you, makes you predictable. He raised both hands. Omega energy pooled in his palms like molten hatred. Goku didn't have time to prepare. The beams erupted, serpentine and hungry, angling not toward him this time, but toward the civilians Flash had gathered below. Flash saw it in a stuttering heartbeat and realized he wasn't fast enough, not for beams that changed direction by thought alone. Superman launched himself upward, dust streaming from his shoulders, refusing to stay down. But the beams curved away from him too, searching for the slowest, the weakest, the ones Goku could not allow to die. Goku dropped into the beam's path without thinking. Ultra instinct flared, not fully, not perfectly, but with enough clarity to let him see each twisting line of Omega intent as if drawn in slow silver arcs. His hands swept left, right, crossing in front of him, ki surging in thin, controlled ribbons. The beams slammed into him. For a moment, the city went white. The shockwave vaporized every window within 3 blocks. When the light cleared, Goku was on one knee, smoke rising from his arms, gi torn, blood tracing thin paths down his side where earlier wounds had reopened. The Omega energy had not pierced him, but it had come close. Too close. Pain flickered across his face. Behind it, anger. Not rage, not hatred. Anger born of seeing a line crossed. A threat aimed not at him, but at those who couldn't defend themselves. Darkseid approached through drifting ash. "You cannot protect them all," he said almost gently. "You cannot even protect yourself." Goku stood, slowly, shoulders rolling back, breath steadying, silver flickering around him again, more stable this time, more certain, each movement guided by the vow forming inside him like tempered steel.
Maybe not, he said softly.
But I'm not fighting alone. Superman dropped from the sky beside him, body battered but eyes burning. Diana landed on his other side, shield raised, sword gleaming through smoke. Flash skidded to a halt behind them, lightning dancing at his feet. Cyborg arrived a second later in a blast of sonic propulsion, arm morphing into a plasma cannon. Behind them all, Batman's voice crackled through comms. Calm, steady, unshakable. Cyborg, on my mark. Coordinates uploaded. We shut that boom tube now. The League stood together in a broken circle around Goku. Not protecting him. Not being protected by him. Standing with him. For the first time since arriving in this universe, the crushing guilt on Goku's shoulders eased. He tightened his fists. Let's finish this. Darkseid raised his hand to unleash another Omega barrage. The sky cracked with a thunder that wasn't thunder as Cyborg channeled the mother box, tearing the boom tube's edges inward. Batman's plan snapped into motion. The parademon reinforcements faltered. Darkseid turned, realizing too late. Goku moved. Faster than before, faster than ever, a silver comet cutting through smoke and ruin. His fist struck Darkseid's jaw in a perfect arc, guided by instinct, by purpose, by something deeper than power. The tyrant stumbled, truly stumbled for the first time. The city held its breath. Goku exhaled. Darkseid steadied himself with the grim patience of a god insulted, his boots grinding trenches through the ruined rooftop as he righted his massive frame. The glow in his eyes guttered, then flared hotter, brighter, as though Goku's strike had stoked a furnace that had not been tested in millennia. But beneath that rising fire was surprise, thin, sharp, quickly buried, but real. Diana saw it. Superman too. Even Batman's silence over the comms carried a thrum of acknowledgement. The impossible had happened. Goku had made Darkseid yield a step. The tyrant's lips drew back from his teeth in a slow, withering smile. You strike like a being who believes in absolutes, he said. Hope, mercy, destiny. These are cages. I will break them, and I will break you.
Goku didn't answer. Words would only slow the flow of motion humming through his limbs. The silver aura around him flickered, imperfect, incomplete, shimmering like a reflection in disturbed water. But each breath tightened its coherence, each heartbeat settling him deeper into the instinctive clarity that demanded no thought, only trust. Flash darted past him in a streak, circling Darkseid, hurling debris and lightning to distract the Omega beams hunting for purchase. Superman leapt again, crossing the distance between them in a blur of raw force, shoulder crashing into Darkseid's torso with a thunderclap that rattled the neighbouring districts. Diana lunged with him, shield angled to redirect the retaliatory blast. Cyborg's cannon lit the sky from afar, joining the assault in precise bursts timed with Batman's quiet counting in their ears. But Goku moved differently, slipping through the spaces between attacks, gliding through the battlefield as though its chaos had been choreographed for him alone. Darkseid swung an arm like a falling monolith. Goku wasn't there. He shifted, redirected, each motion a single brushstroke of controlled power. His heel found Darkseid's ribs. His elbow clipped the tyrant's jaw. Not enough to topple, but enough to carve openings for the others to strike.
For a moment, the League fought as a single organism. Flash disrupting patterns, Diana carving lines of control, Cyborg interfering with Omega targeting, Superman driving Darkseid's attention upward, Goku striking from angles too small and too fluid for anything bound to deliberate thought. The rooftop beneath them finally gave way entirely, collapsing into a cloud of pulverized concrete and rebar. The combatants plunged through 2 floors before Superman caught Diana mid-air and Goku caught himself with a rebounding burst of ki.
Darkseid simply fell, landing in the lobby with a sound like a collapsing star. Rising uninjured, aura darkening the air until the glass melted in its frames. Goku touched down opposite him, boots cracking marble. For a heartbeat, it was only the 2 of them. The League regrouping in the shadows of the shattered building, civilians fleeing through dust-choked hallways, Cyborg locking onto the boom tube's frequency as Batman murmured instructions through grit teeth. Everything else faded. The broken lobby felt too small, too fragile to hold what was rising between them. Darkseid lowered his head. "You persist," he said. "Impressive. Futile." His right eye flared, Omega power writhing into a spear of violent red. Goku inhaled. The silver light steadied. Darkseid fired. The beam split in mid-air, one path toward Goku's heart, the other curling around toward his back, anticipating a dodge. This time, Goku didn't dodge. His body simply moved around the beam, twisting, dipping, stepping so smoothly that the Omega energy carved only after images from his aura. Darkseid's eyes widened just slightly. Goku closed the distance. A punch rose from the floor, silver ringing through the motion. It connected with Darkseid's sternum in a perfect, weightless line, no wasted force, no hesitation. The tyrant's back hit a load-bearing pillar hard enough to crack it from top to bottom. Dust rained, the building groaned, and Darkseid felt pain. Not enough to stop him, but enough to anger him. "You," he snarled, "are a flaw." He lunged, faster than before, abandoning calculated omnipotence for raw brutality. His fist slammed into Goku's shoulder. The impact hurled the Saiyan through a wall and into a corridor lined with offices, chairs and desks bursting into splinters around him. He skidded across the floor, silver aura flickering violently. Ultra instinct wavered. Pain, duty, and the noise of collapsing concrete breaking its fragile balance. He tasted blood. His breath shook. And in that instant of imbalance, he felt, not seen, a massive hand closing around his throat. Darkseid dragged him from the rubble like a disobedient animal. "You fought well," the tyrant said. "Now, fall." He lifted Goku to crush him. Before the blow landed, a boom shook the air, Cyborg's voice cracking through comms. "Now, Batman!" The boom tube above the city convulsed, collapsing inward as though the sky itself had been punched. A gravitational wrench tore through Darkseid's connection to his invasion force. The tyrant's eyes snapped upward, not in fear, but in sudden fury. That moment was enough. Superman crashed into Darkseid's side like a meteor, breaking his grip on Goku. Diana intercepted the retaliatory swing with her shield, bracing with a grunt. Flash grabbed Goku's arm, dragging him to the side just long enough for him to breathe. "Finish it!"
Cyborg shouted, voice strained. "He's destabilized! Goku, hit him!" Goku stood, staggered, straightened. The silver glow returned, faint at first, then steadier, settling on him like quiet fire. He launched forward, every muscle singing in harmony with a rhythm older than thought. Darkseid turned too late. Goku's fist met his jaw, then his chest, then his abdomen, each strike flowing into the next, a tide of immaculate motion. The final blow was silent, a simple palm to the sternum, a push, gentle as a falling leaf. Darkseid slid backward across the fractured lobby floor, right into the collapsing boom tube behind him. Cyborg pulsed the final surge. The tube snapped shut, sealing with a thunderclap that shook the city to its foundations. Darkseid vanished. Silence followed, heavy, ringing, unreal. Then, slowly, Metropolis began to breathe again. Goku wavered on his feet. His aura dimmed. Superman caught his arm before he fell. "You did it," Superman murmured, half in awe. Diana sheathed her sword slowly, reverently. "We did it," Goku rasped, smiling through blood. The League surrounded him.
Battered but standing, proof that he hadn't fought alone. His knees buckled, the world tilted, darkness rushed up gently, and Goku finally allowed himself to fall. When consciousness returned to him, it did so as a thin thread of sound, beeps, steady and distant, like someone tapping on glass from underwater. Goku floated towards it through the fog, his body heavy, wrapped in warmth that wasn't ki, but some kind of soft blanket that smelled faintly of metal and ozone. He groaned without meaning to. The beeping quickened. Voices stirred. Soft footsteps approached. Light pressed gently against his eyelids. He pried them open. The ceiling above him was smooth, curved, glowing faintly along its seams. Not a hospital he recognized. Not Capsule Corp, not Dende's temple. The bed beneath him was firm but cushioned, humming with the faint vibration of technology he didn't understand. His ribs throbbed, his throat burned, every breath scraped like sand through broken glass. But he was alive. And the world, this strange world he'd dropped into, was still here. A shadow leaned into view. "You're awake," Superman said softly, as if raising his voice might jar something loose inside Goku's skull. He looked different in this light, less invincible, more human. His suit was damaged, the iconic colours dulled by smoke and ash. A thin cut traced his cheek. His hair was slightly mussed. Even gods had bad days, it seemed. Goku blinked at him, then offered a faint smile. "Hey, did we win?" Superman laughed, quiet, exhausted, sincere. "We did, thanks to you." Goku tried to sit up. His body rebelled instantly. Superman pressed a firm but gentle hand against his chest. "Don't. You're not healed." "That's never stopped me before," Goku murmured, though he relented, sinking back into the bed with a wince. "Where am I?" "The Watchtower infirmary," another voice said. Diana stepped into view, arms crossed lightly over her breastplate, her expression a mix of admiration and reprimand. "You pushed yourself beyond reason." Goku frowned. "I didn't have a choice." "You always have a choice," she said softly. "Choosing to protect others at cost to yourself
is noble, but sometimes reckless. Batman's voice cut through the room like a dry blade. Reckless or not, it worked. He was standing in the corner, arms folded, cowl pulled back so only his eyes were shadowed. Even now, Goku couldn't sense anything from him. No ki, no heat, no power signature. It made the man feel like a void carved into the air. Flash zipped in next, balancing a tray stacked absurdly high with plates. He's awake! I told you the metabolism thing was real! Guy burns calories like a nuclear reactor! The smell hit Goku before his eyes fully registered the food. Steaming bowls of noodles, towering sandwiches, stacks of pancakes, something that looked like roast meat glazed with a dark sauce. His stomach roared loud enough to echo. Flash beamed. I brought everything? Goku's eyes shone with gratitude that bordered on religious devotion. You're my hero. Technically, that's our job, Flash said proudly, gesturing at his own chest. Goku devoured the first 3 plates before anyone could comment. Some of the tension in the room dissolved as they watched him eat with the single-minded joy of someone who had stared into the face of annihilation and come back hungry. Cyborg entered then, face serious, half replaced by flickering holographic displays that hovered around him like metallic ghosts. The boom tube is sealed. Darkseid's signature faded beyond our detection range. Doesn't mean he's gone for good, but for now, we're safe. Goku paused mid-bite, guilt washing through him. I'm sorry, he said quietly. If I hadn't messed up that teleportation, none of this would have happened. Batman stepped closer. For a moment, Goku expected a lecture. Instead, the Dark Knight studied him with eyes neither accusing nor soft, just relentlessly honest. You made a mistake, he said, but you also prevented a catastrophe. Guilt alone doesn't define responsibility. Action does. Goku blinked. It wasn't comfort, but somehow coming from Batman, it helped more. Superman placed a hand on the bed's railing. Darkseid didn't come because you're weak, Goku. He came because you're powerful enough to matter. Goku swallowed his food, staring at the blanket. I don't want to bring danger to people who trust me. Diana's voice warmed. Then stay with us while you recover. Learn our world. Let us learn yours. Strength shared is strength multiplied. Before Goku could answer, a new voice slid into the room like a whisper through water. I sense your mind is heavy. A tall, green figure stepped through the wall, not through the door, through the wall, phasing like a ripple of air. His red eyes glowed gently, not threatening, more curious than sharp. His cape flowed behind him like mist. Whoa, John, Flash said. Maybe use doors sometimes? Martian Manhunter ignored him, turning to Goku with a faint, knowing smile. Your thoughts, they drift far from this world. Goku nodded slowly. I miss my family. The weight of it hung in the room like an anchor. Cyborg hesitated, then raised a hand. About that, Batman and I have been working on something. Holographic screens flicked open around him, showing shifting models of the breach Goku created. We think we can stabilize a temporary communication channel. Not long, maybe a few minutes, but long enough. Goku's heart slammed against his ribs. You mean I can talk to them? If the data calculations hold, Cyborg said, folding his arms with technical pride.
Yeah. Batman added, 5 minutes, no more. The energy spikes beyond that risk reopening the breach. Goku's throat tightened. He hadn't expected to feel so much so fast. Fear, hope, longing, all tangling until he could barely breathe. When? He whispered. Now, Cyborg said, if you're ready. Goku didn't know if he was, but he nodded anyway.
The League guided him to a circular chamber, lights dimmed, machines humming with a low, harmonic vibration. Cyborg stood at the center, hands interfacing with floating panels. Batman monitored the energy readouts from a distance. Superman stood beside Goku, a grounding presence. The air warped. A pinprick of light appeared, stretching into a shimmering tear. Not violent like the first one, gentler, controlled, a window of energy rippling like heat above sand. And then, faces. Chi-Chi's face. Her eyes widened, disbelieving, filling with tears instantly. Gohan stepped into view behind her, shocked, breath catching. Dad? Goku staggered forward. Hey, I'm okay. Chi-Chi pressed a hand to her mouth, shoulders shaking. Goku, where are you? What happened? Are you hurt? He laughed quietly, voice breaking. I've been better, but I'm all right. I'll come home soon. Gohan leaned in, eyes shining fiercely. We felt your ki vanish. We didn't know if... I'm sorry, Goku said. I didn't mean to worry you. I messed up, but I'm trying to fix it. Chi-Chi's tears streamed freely now. You idiot! You big, beautiful idiot! Cyborg's voice cut in gently. 3 minutes left. Goku swallowed hard. Words crowded his throat, too many for 5 minutes, too big for any language. But he spoke anyway, voice trembling on the edges of control. I miss you. Both of you. Tell Goten I love him. Tell everyone I'll be back. I promise. The portal flickered. Chi-Chi reached out a shaking hand toward the light. Goku, please, just come home safe. I will, he said. The tear shrank. Gohan shouted, Dad, we're proud of you! And closed. Silence folded around him. Superman's hand settled on his shoulder. You'll see them again, he said softly. We'll make sure of it. Goku wiped his eyes with the back of his wrist, forcing a breath back into his lungs. Thanks, all of you. Flash sniffled suspiciously. It's allergies. Space allergies. Happens to speedsters. Diana smiled faintly. Batman looked away first. The Watchtower seemed gentler somehow. Less of a fortress, more of a found place. And for the first time, Goku felt something like belonging. He was still recovering when the next crisis came. Not a cosmic invasion, not a world-ending event, but a call from Gotham. Arkham Asylum. Joker loose again. Hostages. Batman en route. And when the League turned toward the crisis, Goku was already tightening his boots, ready to join. But that was another story, another trial, another lesson he didn't yet know he needed. For now, he rested, surrounded by newfound allies, the phantom ache of family still warm in his chest. And the universe, temporarily, held still. The call from Gotham came not like an alarm. but like a cold draft under a sealed door. Quiet, clipped, efficient. Batman didn't raise his voice. He didn't have to. The moment the words "Arkham Breakout" left his mouth, the atmosphere in the Watchtower tightened, as if the very air knew that whatever hope the League had rebuilt after Darkseid's assault could unravel again in a single wrong moment. Goku felt it instantly. The tension wasn't cosmic this time, not a planetary shudder or the weight of a god's will pressing down on the world. This was smaller, sharper, more intimate. A human kind of darkness. He didn't know why it made the others react so intensely, but he understood enough to recognize the difference in Batman's posture. Shoulders slightly lower, jaw tighter, eyes carrying a cold edge he hadn't seen during the battle with Darkseid. "He took hostages," Batman said. 4 guards, 1 doctor, 1 civilian. Flash grimaced. "Which civilian?" Batman answered with a silence that dragged half a second too long. Then, "A father visiting his daughter." Superman sighed, rubbing his temples. "Joker's escalating. Again." Diana's voice lowered. "He will push until someone stops him." Batman didn't reply. He simply turned, cape cutting a clean arc behind him as he headed toward the teleport chamber. Goku stepped forward almost reflexively. "I'm coming too." Batman stopped mid-stride, not turning, but holding perfectly still. That in itself felt like a warning. "This isn't a cosmic threat," he said. "It's not your fight." Goku shook his head firmly. "If people are in danger, it is my fight." Flash zipped beside Batman, whispering loudly, "Just let Pineapple Hair come. His vibe makes things better. And if Joker tries anything stupid, well, we have a nuclear option that smiles a lot." Batman didn't laugh. Goku wasn't sure Batman had ever laughed in the history of his universe. But after a moment he said, "Fine, but understand this. Joker isn't a being of power. He's not Darkseid. He won't fight you head-on. He'll use people. Fear. Traps. He'll force choices." Goku blinked. "Choices? The kind you can't punch your way through." Goku thought about that, about the aching split in his ribs, the memory of Darkseid's Omega beams, the half-formed glow of Ultra Instinct flickering in his blood. "Okay," he said. "I'll handle it." Batman's silence suggested he doubted that very much, but he didn't forbid Goku from coming, and that was enough. Arkham Asylum rose through the Gotham fog like a forgotten wound, tall, gothic, iron-gated, its walls stained by weather, its windows barred like the eyes of something watching. The moment they arrived, the smell hit Goku. Damp stone, rust, old chemical cleaners, fear soaked deep into the foundation. He wrinkled his nose. "This place feels sad." "It should," Batman said, already moving. "It's full of broken minds." Goku followed behind him, stepping lightly across the slick pavement. They slipped inside through a service door Batman bypassed with silent precision. The corridors were dim, lit by flickering bulbs, the floor reflecting distorted shapes in puddles. Sirens whooped faintly in the distance, but the local alarms had been cut. A metallic scent tinged the air.
Trickles of laughter drifted from somewhere up ahead. High. Thin. Wrong. Goku felt the hair on his arms rise. They reached a hall where guards lay unconscious, not dead, Batman confirmed with a brief check, though one had a fractured arm. He didn't kill them, Goku whispered. Batman's jaw flexed. Not yet. Goku didn't understand the weight in that sentence, but he would soon. They approached a reinforced door leading to the administrative wing. On its surface, smeared in something suspiciously red, were 2 words. Knock, knock. Batman paused, scanning. Tripwire, hallway, infrared triggers, possible gas release. Goku looked closer. He didn't see anything but darkness and a faint shimmer.
How do we get through?
We don't, Batman said. You do.
Me?
Instant transmission. Lock onto the civilian heartbeat behind the door. Goku closed his eyes, focusing. Ki was nowhere here. But life. Life he could sense faintly like distant drums. There. Weak, uneven breathing. A man in terror. Goku placed 2 fingers to his forehead and vanished. He reappeared inside a small office with peeling paint and overturned furniture. A fluorescent light flickered erratically. The civilian, a middle-aged man in a wrinkled button-down, sat tied to a chair in the center of the room, gagged, trembling. And behind him, hands resting lightly on his shoulders as though posing for a family portrait, stood the Joker. Green hair wild, purple suit immaculate except for the splatters, smile stretched too wide to belong on a human face. He clapped once, delighted.
Oh, a magic trick. Now that was impressive. You must be the new toy Batsy picked up.
Goku positioned himself between Joker and the hostage. His voice stayed calm. Let him go. Joker's grin widened impossibly.
Oh, I will, Sunshine. In fact, I'll let both of them go.
Goku blinked. Both. A sound came from behind him. A breath, thin and shallow. Goku turned. Batman lay on the floor, unconscious, wrists bound with metal cord, a smear of blood on his cowl. Goku's heart lurched. How? Hallucinogenic microsyringe in the door handle, Joker said cheerfully, twirling a tiny needle between his fingers. He touched it. Down he went. Even the big bad bat forgets to wear gloves sometimes. He wagged the needle. Tisk, tisk. Goku felt heat rise in his chest, but not the clean heat of anger before a fight. This was frustration, confusion, the sick twist of knowing he'd been outmaneuvered without ever throwing a punch. And Joker wasn't finished. Now, here's the fun part, he said, stepping lightly around the civilian's chair as though dancing. You get to choose. Goku's stomach tightened.
Choose what? Joker lifted a detonator with a lazy flourish. 2 lights blinked on its surface. One button frees the nice daddy behind you. The other button frees Batsy. Press the wrong one. His smile snapped razor sharp. Boom. Goku stared at him. For a moment he didn't speak. Then, slowly, "That's stupid." Joker blinked. "Excuse me?" "It's stupid," Goku repeated. "Why would I choose?" "Because," Joker said, spreading his arms, "you can't save both." "Why not?" Joker sputtered, thrown off.
Because there are rules to these things.
Okay, Goku said, placing 2 fingers to his forehead. I'm not good with rules. And in a blink, the hostage vanished. Joker spun, startled.
What?
Blink. Batman vanished. Blink. Goku reappeared above Joker, upside down in mid-air, dropping onto him before the clown could react. The detonator flew from Joker's hand. Goku caught it neatly, held it between thumb and forefinger, and crushed it like a cracker. Joker stared, mouth open, expression blank.
That, he whispered, was rude.
Batman, now safely positioned behind Goku, rose with a pained grunt, wrists free.
Goku, he said, step back. Joker is... Goku stepped back. Joker lunged. Batman's fist met Joker's jaw with a heavy, efficient crack. Joker collapsed like a puppet with cut strings, giggling even unconscious. Unpredictable, Batman finished, exhaling. Goku rubbed his neck. He's weird. He's worse than weird, Batman said, binding Joker with steel restraints. But you handled it. Superman arrived then, having finished evacuating the rest of the wing. Everyone safe? He asked. Batman nodded. Everyone. Superman clapped Goku's shoulder. You just solved a Joker scenario without casualties. That might be more impressive than fighting Darkseid. Goku scratched his head. I just did the simple thing. Batman allowed himself the smallest hint of a smirk. Sometimes simple is exactly what the world needs. And then, unexpectedly,
he added, good work. Goku blinked rapidly, unsure whether he'd heard correctly. Flash stuck his head through the broken doorway. Did I hear Batman compliment someone? Is the multiverse collapsing? Diana gave Goku a proud nod. You chose well. I didn't choose, Goku said. I just saved everyone. Flash grinned. Exactly. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of healing. 3 weeks of training with Superman, debating philosophy with Diana, eating mountains of food with Flash, meditating with Jean, and teasing Cyborg about his beeping noises. 3 weeks of Batman pretending not to like him. And then, the portal home was ready. Goku stood before the shimmering gate, the League gathered around him. Superman extended his hand. Ready to go home? Goku clasped it firmly. Yeah, but I'll miss you guys. Diana bowed her head. You will always have a place among us. Flash sniffed. Do Saiyans hug? I vote for a hug. Batman didn't move. Goku hugged Flash anyway. Then Superman, Diana, Cyborg, Jean. Batman finally sighed. Fine, he muttered. Goku hugged him too. Hard. You're good people, Batman. Please stop touching me. Goku laughed. Superman stepped beside him one last time. We'll meet again. I know it. Goku looked at him, eyes warm. Count on it. He stepped into the portal. Light swallowed him. Weight shifted. Gravity twisted. And then... home. His real Earth. His real sky. The breeze smelled like Mount Paozu. Goku exhaled, long and deep. Behind him, the portal faded. Above another Earth, in another universe,
Superman stood alone on the Watchtower deck, gazing up at the stars. He smiled faintly. Somewhere, impossibly far, a friend was smiling back.